Well, welcome to Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I'm Sally Goodger.
And here we are with two Matt chapters that I really enjoyed. I don't know how you felt about them.
I did not care for them as much as you did. I didn't get a chance today to reread my blogs from when I read them initially. I might have felt differently, but it's really, I don't know, I felt a little bit frustrated because it leads you up to be this really big exciting escape, particularly from the Shanshan, and we never actually escape from the Shanshan because the Shanshan are in the circus with us and absolutely dominate. The only thing Matt thinks about in Knife of Dreams is Tuon, and it's just a really suffocating plot to be in. And this is the beginning of that, so I did not find it as exciting.
In retrospective view, when you put it up against what's coming in Crossroads of Twilight and Knife of Dreams, then I can see how it would be part of the stifling experience.
Yeah, it just feels like a letdown.
I think to me, I'm on the opposite end. To me, it felt like the last gasp before Tuon is centrifugal force of the plot.
That's fair.
Because the structure of these two chapters, again, is very montage-like. We're picking up, right after our last Matt chapter when he talked to Teslin, I believe, and agreed to try and get her and Edicina, as well as Jolene, out of Shanshan-controlled Evudar. And we keep, everything is intercut with these conversations between him and Tom and Julian, all crammed together in Tom and Julian's little dorm room.
Yeah, it's got a very King Arthur Legend of the Sword vibe where they're all sitting around that table or whatever, and they they smash cut to different things going on.
Yeah, we've got already a bit of a heist theme going on here, despite the fact that what will be stolen is not what we want to be stolen. Although Robert Jordan is really building up to it. But Tuon is only mentioned briefly in that she's been staring creepily at Matt, and he's constantly why is this woman watching me? Why does she want to buy me? I'm not that hot. And it's Matt, First of all, you are.
But I know that's beside the point.
Yeah.
I also understand that it is. I also agree that it's upsetting to just be watched. Here's a hot tip. If you are courting the man the omens told you you're supposed to marry, perhaps don't stare creepily at him from across the room.
I know, it would almost be endearing if Tuon wasn't who she was, Yeah. If she was, a normal, non-war criminal.
Yeah.
Non-human rights violator, and was just an incredibly awkward person.
Yeah.
Who was that guy? Constantly.
Yeah, just trying to puzzle it out.
Yeah.
Being
But he's so odd.
He's just, I can't quite put the word
just a little
to
guy.
it. He's just a little freak.
He's just a little freak. But no, it is not quite that, because Tuon is everything we've already said. There's also, Tylin is mostly absent. We get one, of course, gross post-coital scene between her and Matt before she's well, I'm taking off for 10 days. And then she's gone.
Yeah, which is always nice.
Yeah, it's always nice. I also am a fan of, I feel like if you're going to deal with, abuse and sexual assault plot lines, which is its own, basket of can of worms. That's the basket of worms.
Significantly more horrifying than a can of worms.
I was thinking a basket of snakes. Which is just a can of worms, but bigger.
But upgraded.
Yeah, upper level. It's the Pokemon evolution.
Yeah, it's an evolved can of worms is a basket of snakes.
And then top of the food chain, the Pokemon. Can you tell I don't play Pokemon?
The final evolution.
The final evolution is a vat of dragons.
You go from worm to snake to dragon.
Which sounds fucking lit, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Vat of Dragons. You also get a little bit less horrifying, viscerally horrifying. Vat of Dragons does not horrify me nearly as much as the concept of there just being a can of worms.
A can of worms, yeah, like a baked beans
can.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be baked beans, but it's just worms.
Yeah.
Horrifying. Vat of Dragons, though.
A Vat of Dragons. Yeah, I'd take it.
Be like, all these are my dragons?
Oh, this is my Vat of Dragons. I mean, you just
Sounds like a D&D
spell. Yeah, it does.
Cast Vat of Dragons.
Vat of Dragons, an 8th level spell.
What happens?
Make a wisdom saving throw.
I drop a Vat of Dragons on people.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Matt Mercer.
Matt, you are unhinged.
You are unhinged, Matthew. Sorry for that sidebar. Yeah, sexual assault and abuse plot lines are their own can of worms, but if we're going to deal with them, prefer to do so without the perpetrator either on screen or like personally interacting with the victim. It is far more interesting to me and a lot less viscerally upsetting while still maintaining sort of the impact of what's going on to just have Matt reacting to Tylan despite the fact that she's not there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, little details like everyone's talking about what's going to happen when Tylan gets back because he immediately changes back to his normal clothes once she's gone. And everyone's like, well, as soon as Tylan gets back, he'll be jumping to get back into his fancy clothes. And he's like, I just ignore them, except the first time someone said something about Tylan getting back, I, like, jumped. Because I got freaked out that Tylan was actually...
Yeah, that she'd returned early.
...coming back. Which is one of those, you know, upsetting moments that sort of cuts through Matt's general, surface level humor and wit, and you're just like, oh, well, that's horrifying, actually.
Yeah, it's awful. That constant level of hypervigilance that becomes so embedded into his character after 2 books in Ebudar that you don't really notice it, except in moments like that.
Yeah. So that's 2 things I enjoy about these chapters. And then I just am a big, as you said, it's very similar to the King Arthur Legend of the Sword montages, and I'm a slut for King Arthur Legend of the Sword montages specifically. But I enjoy Matt and Tom and Julian interacting. I think they're a fun group because they are 3 different subtypes of the rogue archetype. And not to be like reductive, obviously they're all very complex characters, but they are all fitting in this sort of realm of sidestepping the law, even though Julian is technically, you know, the Terran version of a cop, but he the last few books has been, you know, more or less outside of the law.
He's gone a little rogue.
Yeah. Doing his own thing and, you know, dressing up as a servant and whatever so he can sneak in and see his lady love, who he, for the first time, here refers to as Thera. So I guess if you're an eagle-eyed reader, you'd be like, Thera? Like unto Amathera? Of 5 books ago?
Yes, and if you are that type of eagle-eyed reader, you probably enjoyed Wheel of Time much more than I have,
props
because
to
you are significantly less confused than I am at all times.
Yeah. So having the 3 of them together is just, I think, fun.
No, they're definitely very charming. I think the only thing it's missing is I'm sad Noel isn't yet folded into the
Once
group.
Noel kind of replaces Julian, that's when we reach peak.
Yeah.
Peak rogue.
Yeah, and that's like, here I am, 23, 24.
Yeah, 23 max, I'd say.
Here are my 2 90-year-old right hand and left hand mans.
Yep. Here's Tom, killed 2 kings, Marilyn. Here's Noel, mysterious backstory. Has a best-selling book.
Yeah.
Autobiography. Has probably killed kings. I don't know. We don't get the whole Jane Farstrider backstory.
No, we don't, unfortunately. No, so I agree. They're very charming together. Especially there are these like funny little offhands where like the whole kind of premise of these 2 chapters is they set up one plan and it collapses, and they have to set up another plan and it collapses, and Tom and Julian keep having these funny asides about like, well, I was so close to getting this done. Oh, I was so close. And you're just like, these criminals.
I know, I love to watch them work, you know? Just do their little thing.
Yeah.
Do you think if Robert Jordan had lived, he would have written The Travels of Jane Farstrider?
I can only hope he would have. That would have been such a charming book.
Yeah. Just Noel being absolutely off the wall.
Yeah.
Unhinged.
Completely unhinged little guy.
Yeah. I'd just be like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Noel currently is making his mark in the Band of the Red Hand by telling absolutely off-the-wall stories every night.
Matt's like, yeah, I haven't really seen Noel since I, hooked him up with a place to sleep with the Band of the Red Hand, but apparently he just tells them wild stories every night, and everyone's like, oh, that charming old man.
Yeah.
Oh, except he does say that all of the Band of the Red Hand take his stories at face value, so now they're just like, absolutely like,
yeah,
Shara, man.
Like in Shara, people have faces on their stomachs.
Yeah, which is an actual, like, reported, obviously fake thing, but like a monster that frequently was, reported by explorers in such quote-unquote exotic places as Africa and South America. They're like, oh yeah, there are these monsters. Actually, Herodotus, I believe, was the first one who did this. Yeah, classic. Who was like, Herodotus was like, I heard down the telephone line of 6 different guys that there are people whose mouths are on their chests, and everyone's like, oh, that's terrifying. You
like to think of who's the dumb member of the band that's still with us? Can't remember his name.
He only gets, they're all a little bit dumb.
That's true.
Harnan is sort of our classic himbo, the captain. The other guys are sometimes referenced as more dumb, but we don't know them by name as well.
It's just nice to think of Harnan becoming a Herodotus-like figure and being like, I heard.
From Jane Farstrider.
From Jane Farstrider himself.
No, he would be like, I heard from this guy named Noel. No relation to Jane Farstrider.
That just is absolutely insane.
But over in Shara, there are people with faces on their tummies. If you want to read a fun horror book about monsters with faces on their torsos, then The Monstrumologist is a fun, though I emphasize very gory horror book.
Yay.
Yeah, so if that's your cup of tea, go for it. There is also, meanwhile, this ongoing subplot of the Golem moving through the city and just killing people and sucking their blood.
Yep.
So that's just sort of a fun, like, latent plot in the background that is adding some, impetus to them leaving. Besides the, once Tylan leaves for 10 days, Matt's like, oh great, well we have to get the fuck out of here before Tylan gets back. Partly because it will be easier to leave, but Matt also says explicitly that since he's now leaving with, he's now planning on leaving with Damon, that's a much bigger crime than just him and his people disappearing, and he doesn't want Tylan to be implicated in it. So he wants to get out before she gets back. Of course, Matt's vested interest in, keeping Tylan's, hands metaphorically clean is going to get her killed. Though not on purpose, obviously, but
it's just a form of irony that I feel like authors love to apply to men.
Yeah.
The more you try to protect women, the more likely they are to die horrifically. It's like, what?
Okay.
Who is this benefiting?
I don't know. I'm just like, no one cares about tragic irony when it applies to Tylan.
Yeah, kill the bitch. I'll kill her myself.
I've been waiting for her to die for many, many books.
Let Noel at her.
Yeah. Noel would get the job done. Let him go off. So yeah, there's this sort of like, I don't know, it reminded me of like this Jack the Ripper sort of thing.
For sure.
There's like a serial killer on the loose in the streets of Abu Dar who's killing like every other night.
Yeah, and definitely adds like a latent threat. Latent, but like a tangential threat. But it does also attach to the main plot of the escape because they're increasing security at night in the city.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to escape at night because that's the easiest way to get access to the... easiest time to get access to the Damon, quote-unquote, kennels. So Matt's like, great, this asshole is running through town killing people.
He wants to kill me specifically, and he's making it so much harder to escape.
Yeah, so
yeah, that all is woven quite neatly together. As opposed to the last time the Golem was a major threat at the end of A Crown of Swords, when everyone was like, we've got to get out of Abu Dar now, because the Golem will come after us. And then that was just like,
and then
nothing.
He didn't.
Yeah.
For
the one good thing about Tylan being killed in the manner that she does, which is not to say that I care or disapprove of the way Tylan the way Tylan gets killed. But the one good thing is that it sort of shows us that that gun did not have an empty chamber, you know?
Yeah.
That dog had teeth. So.
Chekhov's gun was loaded, baby.
Yeah, come on. So that threat was not just... How many other ways can I say it was not an empty threat?
It's not an empty threat. The Golem is, for once, actually being a threatening villain.
Yeah, and now after that he gets to disappear for another 4 books. Which is too bad. It would have been kind of funny if he was hunting Val and Luca's circus, specifically.
I feel like the Golem should join the Band of the Red Hand.
Oh, yeah?
After he falls in love with Matt.
I feel like he killed Nalashon, so I have
a hard time. I keep forgetting about Nalashon. I'm so sorry. I keep, in my head, Nalashon, died peacefully in his sleep. That's what I want for him.
So, yeah, that's what I want, too.
You're right. No, they need to have a definite sort of, fox and hound. No, they have a fox and hound situation, and this guy's like, why is he always in this circus?
Yeah.
Golem does not have a gender. I don't know why I keep referring to it as a man.
They refer to it as a he, I think, so. It looks like a dude, I guess.
Of course it does.
Well, there are supposedly some lady ones, but I'm actually grateful Robert Jordan didn't pull those out, because I shudder to think what he would have done with a woman serial killer. He already has the Black Aja at his bidding.
R.I.P. Nalashon.
He would have found some way to victimize and humiliate a monster, a serial killer monster.
You're so right, Bessie.
And then we would have been like, ugh.
You're so right.
But you're right, there's a lot of untapped potential in terms of the sexual chemistry between Matt and
I feel like there could be sort of an extended enemies to reluctant lovers, and Matt's like, you killed one of my boyfriends, and the Golem's like, I'll replace him as your boyfriend.
At the bare minimum, there's the very, catch me if you can plot where they should be chasing each other a whole lot more. It's just what I think.
Yeah.
But sadly, this is the end of it. I don't know if I've been going chronologically at all. Matt tells us that his main plan to get out everyone once Tylan leaves is Tylan announces she is leaving basically on Tuon's suggestion, which I don't know what that fucking means, Is Tuon trying to get her out of the way or something? Who knows? But she's leaving with Surath so they can basically go and survey her lands. And they're leaving and going on those flying things, which involves crossing the harbor to get to the grounds where the Rockin or Torockin or whatever are kept. And there's a funny exchange where she's like, don't worry, I won't make you fly. And Matt in his head is like, I would love to fly on those things.
That sounds fucking lit. I don't want to go with you. But...
I do not want to go with you. I would like to stay here, but sign me up for flying on the wyverns or whatever the hell those are. Anyway, so...
give me my Vat of Dragons.
Give me my Vat of Dragons! It's the closest thing we can get to. Dragons. But I mean, I guess besides Rand, it's a Vat of Dragons, and it's just a bunch of Rockin' and then Rand.
And then Rand's at the bottom.
Rand's like, hi. Like Pandora's box.
The only thing left in the box was Rand.
Rand, and it wasn't hope at all. It was kind of depressing, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He was worse than most of the dragons.
Yeah, we should have kept all of the dragons and let Rand out.
Yeah, I agree.
Pandora, you fucked up.
Pandora! Or Matt, as the case may be. Does Matt have some Pandora?
I was literally just thinking that. I was like, wait a second.
He does, actually, but it's not where you're to yet. Varen gives him a real Pandora's box situation.
Good for her, Varen.
Although he ends up not being a Pandora, going against her expectations. Whatever, we'll get there. We'll get there
when we get there.
Thank you, Mr. Incredible. God, I love that movie. Such a lit movie.
We should watch that movie.
Yeah, it's great. Oh!
It is
on the move.
On the move. Bend your booty.
Yeah.
Limbo! Bump the mic. Good job, Eddie. Oh, nailed it. You seek Emily's lap now?
It's only one leg. My other leg is up, Davram Bashir style.
Ed is confused. This is a puzzle he cannot solve.
Well, to be fair, Ed, there aren't many puzzles you can't solve. You're colorblind, for one thing. So Matt waves off Tylin and her coterie, basically, and then conducts some reconnaissance of the harbor to try and figure out if that's a potential escape route. He just wants to cross that off his list before he marks Val and Luca as his only potential.
Can you blame him?
He references that he has a way or a method of getting Val and Luca to leave earlier than intended, but we do not yet know what that is. So that's sort of terrifying, but...
Pulls out a gun.
Yeah. Wheels out his first cannon. He's like, I figured out why I need a Belfound or a Ludra. Bang, bang.
It's to kill Val and Luca.
It's to kill Val and Luca.
I feel like a
take over
Ludra would
his
be
circus.
like, that's an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
I just read that chapter in Knife of Dreams. About the Belfounder and the...
Oh.
The
right. I was like,
wafting
where Val and
tubes.
Luca dies? And then I was like, Val and Luca doesn't die though.
It would be pretty funny if Matt took over. Matt did a coup d'etat of Val and Luca's circus, and now he's the ringmaster.
Yeah, it's like someone always has to be the ringmaster, so it always goes to the person who killed the former ringmaster, like Tim Allen Santa Claus.
I like that you said, like, Tim Allen Santa Claus instead of something like werewolves.
Tim Allen Santa Claus was a formative
I remember that movie, yeah.
Yeah, because it was mind-boggling that he killed Santa and then became Santa. What kind of out of left field that was.
What type of fucking plot is this?
Oh, man.
Anyway, Matt kills Val and Luca with a gun. And then he takes over Val and Luca's identity in order to escape Ebudar.
Matt would make a great Val and Luca. He'd be a better Val and Luca than Val and Luca.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt surveys the harbors, concludes he cannot leave by ship, which leaves plan B. He goes back, meets with Noel. Noel's like, hey, I wish you would let me in on your little plots and mayhem and whatever. And Matt's like, plots and mayhem? Me?
Who?
Did I do that? And Noel's like, yes, you are clearly a mischief boy. Let me in on your plots.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, give it some time, buddy, before you can join the inner circle.
To earn your way up.
And Noel's like, okay, well, first piece of information, the Golem is back and he's doing murders. And Matt's like, great. God damn it. Then he goes and finds Julian and is like, Julian, I need you to steal an Adam leash thing and 2 Soldam dresses. And Julian's like...
You ever have those days?
Julian's like, Matt, I'm not a thief. I'm a thief catcher. And Matt's like, seems like the skills are translatable, you know? You know?
Yeah.
And Julian's like, I mean, and Matt's like, listen, here's the carrot I'm dangling in front of you. We're never gonna get out your lady love unless we get out of Ebudar. So make of that what you will. And Julian's like, fine, Matt. God damn it.
I'll go do some stealing.
He's like, it'll take me a while though. So he goes and gets ready to do his stealing. This is when we start getting these cuts with Tom and Julian. Matt's like, yeah, I looped in Tom, like, right away. And he had some ideas. But then Beslan gets involved, or tries to get involved, by listening at their door. And then being like, you guys, I have the perfect distraction. We'll do a revolution. And Matt's like, that sounds like a Les Miserables situation. Specifically the ending where everyone dies.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't actually think.
Spoiler alert.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry to everyone who hasn't seen a Red Les Mis. They do all die at the end.
Empty chairs at
Empty tables. Yeah, Beslan's singing that. In my version of the Wheel of Time TV show, which is unapologetically a comedy,
Yeah, of course.
Beslan is the only character who's in a musical.
Beslan's always singing Les Mis songs and no one else is singing with him.
Red! The color. Matt's like, shut the fuck up! In the background.
I did not live.
Yeah, Tom's always strumming his harp.
I love this. I'm sorry for my screech earlier.
Oh, no, so good. Anyway, Matt talks Beslan out of doing a revolution because he's like, it's not going to happen the way you want it to. It'll get you and everyone else killed, and it'll also get your mother killed because there's no way to prove that she didn't know, essentially. And it's not like the Shanshin strike me as people who are going to give everyone a fair and just trial before executing them.
Yeah, Beslan, God bless him, is like, the people are ready to rise up. I'll just give the call and everyone will rise up.
Oh yeah, Princeling?
Oh yeah, sir?
Rich boy? What do you know about being fucking a peasant?
Yeah.
What do you know about rising up?
Yeah, the peasants lied to you. I hate to break it to you, but the peasants lied to you, Beslan.
Matt is actually a man of the people, and he's like, they'll do nothing, actually.
They don't want to get brutally murdered by the Shanshan, so
and they're right and valid, so eat that. And Beslan's like, oh. So Matt convinces Beslan, okay, wait for your uprising until a month after we've gone. And Beslan, for some reason, agrees to that calendar date. Yeah. He's like, let us get clear. And Beslan's like, fine. Tom's little mission is to do an accurate forgery of the paperwork that they will need to smuggle out Soldam and Damon. So that's what everyone's doing, when Matt goes to visit Jolene to convince her to get on board this plan once Julin actually obtains the Adam and the dresses. So Matt goes to Satalanon's basement. His plan is, okay, we can get Satalanon to masquerade as one of the Soldam, then we just need to find another woman who will be a Soldam. And they sort of throw out, possibilities. They're like, Rizal, who, if you have forgotten who Rizal is, I don't blame you, because her only personality trait is that she has the world's best tits.
Yeah. Which, good for her.
Yeah. Iconic, honestly.
I just wish there were she was allowed to have thoughts in her head.
I know, yeah. I wish that she wasn't just, the sexy babysitter trope, because Oliver, the 10-year-old, was super horny for her in a way that was upsetting to read about.
Yeah.
And now Tom, the 80-year-old, is also super horny for her in a way that is also upsetting to read about.
It would be pretty funny if actually Rizal was the daughter of the Nine Moons.
God,
and Matt's wife was just, this super brilliant lady with excellent titties.
I know.
And I'm like, wow, power couple of the century.
I would love that for her. Instead, Rizal is going to get married to some Shanshan officer who hopefully is more her speed and her age.
Yeah, we hope.
One hopes.
We are not told.
And Matt's like, well, could Sarah, Julin's, lover, masquerade as a Soldam? And Julin's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sarah is on the edge of a nervous breakdown at literally every moment. Yep. So she needs to go through some deprogramming before she's going to get there. And Matt's like, okay, well, sure wish Brigitte was here,
Take charge kind of woman.
Yeah, where are all my women? It's pretty funny to listen to these three guys just list women that they know in Abu Dar.
Like,
well,
we don't think we know any women.
We actually don't know anyone. Rats. So far they've only got Satalanon. So Matt goes to test this plan out. Jolene is extremely resistant. This is the first time we meet her warders, whose names are Fen and Blarick.
Blarick.
I know, Blarick. I get such a huge kick out of. I will forget those names, so I'm going to refer to them as Brad and Chad.
I mean, they might as well fucking be named Brad and Chad. They have no personality traits.
Matt has the most hilarious inner monologue about them. He's like, they are just two of the same men.
Yeah.
And all they like is Jolene, and that's it. That's their only personality, is liking Jolene. And I personally don't get it, because she's the worst.
Jolene sucks.
You know what? Whatever. So they're kind of in the background, lurking, looming, as Matt's convincing Jolene that she has to go along with this plan because she doesn't really have any other options. So you gotta do what you gotta do. And Satalanon's like, she gives Jolene a really savage burn. That is iconic, but I can't remember. She's basically like, I wish you would act like an Aes Sedai. So far I haven't even seen you act like a grown woman.
Yeah!
And you're like, ah!
And you're like,
burn.
Roast of the century, to be honest.
Yeah, and of course Satalanon is exceptional both in her verbal burns, but also in the way she interacts with Aes Sedai and women who can channel. It was very annoying with Nynaeve and Elaine, that level of condescension. Here with Jolene, who is a well-known and established Aes Sedai, to the point of having the Aes Sedai face, it becomes, weird. Where does Satalanon get off, speaking to Aes Sedai in this way, when so far what we've seen from our average lay people, no one talks to Aes Sedai that way, except maybe Matt, who doesn't give a fuck. Yeah. And also has a special necklace that makes him immune to channeling. Yeah. And the heavy implication here, especially when Jolene is like, sometimes you sound familiar. Are you sure I don't know you? the idea is that Satalanon was previously in the tower and something happened to her. She was burned out or stilled or something like that, which makes a special sense given that she's in Ebudar, where the kin is such a rich subculture.
Right.
But I don't believe we really get big answers on that for quite a while, if at all, so...
No, where I'm at in Knife of Dreams, she just let slip another big hint that she, like, knows what happens at, like, the accepted testing or something, and they're like, there's no way you would know that. And she's like, oh, an innkeeper hears all sorts of stuff.
And it's like, okay, you're not doing a great job of hiding that secret.
Yeah.
Secret it is. But also, it's sort of overstated. It's not important who Satalanon was in the past. She's not a name we've heard before.
Yeah, it's like she's Cat Swan.
Yeah. Anyway, Satalanon is basically like, quit whining, we have to try this, but first we have to see if this will actually work. And long story short, it doesn't. It, like, puts Jolene in agony to be connected to a woman who cannot channel.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt's like, oh, great, well, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And he is starting to leave, and Stalinon's like, well, now what? And Matt's like, don't worry, I always have another plan, lying through his teeth.
He said, like a liar.
Yeah. And Stalinon's like, okay, great, it's so reassuring to have you by our side. Oh, Satalanon also told us that she is fully planning on leaving with Matt and the others. She is ready at a moment's notice to sell the inn, and that her entire family, which includes her husband and a pretty big number of children, have already left Ebudar via ship and are heading toward Ilion to wait it out. Which, I don't know. I just think that when Satalanon is like, yeah, do you think I'm going to stay in a place where they enslave women? I'm like, preach, Satalanon.
Yeah.
She's
you go, girl.
Sort of consistently being our voice of ethical reason here.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, so as Matt is leaving, who should he run into but Bael Doman? He was like, well, if it isn't Matt Cathan. And Matt's like, do I know you? And Bael Doman's like, yeah, you were on a ship with me. And Matt's like, oh, the knife days.
He was like, I was, like, possessed by a dagger at that point, so I don't, like, totally remember what you're talking about, but, like, sounds vaguely familiar.
Matt's like, I do sort of vaguely recognize you, but I also do not want to remember those days at all, because I was fully possessed by a demon. And Bael Doman's like, yeah, understandable. Why don't we come have a drink? And sort of manhandles Matt back into the inn. And Matt's like, yeah, great, a drink, until they get up to Bael Doman's room, where Aegianan is. And Matt's like,
there's no alcohol here.
I should have seen this coming.
Damn it.
God damn it. And Bael Doman's like, this is Aegianan. Matt, like, flops down on the nearest chair and is like, what do you want?
You two?
You two?
How many?
This might as well happen. And Aegianan's like, I've heard that you're a guy who can help me out. And Bael Doman said that you can do that. And Matt's like, okay, well, what do you need? And she's like, and I also heard that Tom and Julian are with you, and I would like to see them, and also they should help me. And Matt's like, okay, what do you need them for? And she's like, you ask too many questions. Get out. And Bael Doman's like, give him a minute. And Matt's like, puts two and two together, or I should say does a much more complicated math problem, because this would not be my first thought. But he's like, oh, the Seekers are after you, aren't they? And Aegianan's like, what the fuck?
How did you? You're a lot smarter than you look, you
She's
little
like,
weasel.
What the fuck? Dun, dun. And Matt's like, okay, well, she's like, I want to leave by ship in, like, the spring. I can get a ship by then. And Matt's like, I'll do you one better. We leave, like, tomorrow, and all you have to do is provide 3, count 'em, 3 soldam. And what's the number of soldam that Aegianan can conveniently blackmail? 3. So she's like, yeah, I can do that. And Matt's like, great.
Excellent.
Excellent doing
See you
business
tomorrow.
with you. Yeah, he's got the crazy eyes.
Aegian's like, maybe we should have picked a different crazy boy. Bael Doman's like, no, this is the right boy for us.
Yeah. Matt goes back to Tom and Julian and is like, guess what I found? And they're like, Aegianan and Bael Doman. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, well, are they trustworthy? And Tom and Julian are basically like, yeah. I mean, they were helpful. They're competent. They helped us do this, complicated heist thing over in Tanchico. And Matt's like, will you please tell me what the fuck ever happened in Tanchico? And they're like, well, Nynaeve and Elaine made us promise that we wouldn't. And Tom's like, nah, Nynaeve and Elaine aren't here, so here's the thing. We had to steal and dispose of a male, a dom, and, because that would be dangerous for the Dragon Reborn. And Matt's like, okay, did anyone tell Rand? Which is the only valid question that has ever been raised about the male dom.
Yeah.
And Julian's like, I mean, I'm sure if it was important, Nynaeve and Elaine would have told him.
And they didn't.
And it's like, Julian, are we even reading the same book?
Do we know the same women?
Because
those two chuckle fucks.
Those two, genders communicating with one another? It doesn't happen.
Not in Wheel of Time land.
Yeah, never. I can't imagine it. Can't fathom it.
Also, Elaine thinks Rand is just like some sort of baby child to protect.
Yeah.
She would never want to give him bad news.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't want to tell you about this because I was worried it would give you nightmares. So I just kept it to myself. And it's like, girl.
And Rand, leader of most of the known world, is like,
that seems like something I should really be worried about, And
if you had told me, I could have prepared for this.
And they're like, oh, well, don't worry. It's been destroyed anyway. Yet another case of dramatic irony. And, this is one of those funny moments where Julian's like, why did I even steal the Soldam dresses?
Yeah. She's got like a bag of dresses on the bed.
Come on. And Matt's like, what? How was I supposed to know that 3 Soldam would fall into our laps,
Yeah.
It's contingency plans, man. But so the plan has now been set up. They are teaming up with Aegianan and Duman to get out of the city because Aegianan is of the blood. She can acquire all the paperwork necessary to take people, Duman specifically, out of the city. So that's how they are all going to leave together. Hopefully before Tylan gets back, but spoiler alert, Tylan will return before they leave. Just like watching rogues do their stuff. I also think it's interesting that we have some of the most narrative conscious folks here Noel is going to, again, be part of this trifecta. Noel, Matt, and Tom. But Matt and Tom are both very aware on some level that they are in a story.
Yeah.
Tom especially has this little thing where he's like, stories have power, Matt. If everyone thinks that Rand did swear fealty to Aleda, then that would be a major problem politically. And Matt's just like, whatever, on to the next problem, So Tom is very conscious of how that works from a political standpoint. Matt is more focused on it, I think, from a personal standpoint. He is, we've mentioned this before, of the 3 Ta'veren, the one who weaponizes his abilities most frequently. Oh, and his response to Julian, actually, about the Soldam dresses when they're complaining, Matt in his head is like, I can't help that I'm Ta'veren, It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Things are gonna come together.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, okay. And that's not really anything yet. I just think it's interesting.
No, it is interesting, especially because, as we've talked about, Matt is, I think, the character whose arcs are most, mythologically charged, or at least the most mythologically, evident. With Rand and Perrin, there's, of course, mythological stuff going on, but with Matt, it seems to be at the surface all the time.
Yes.
That he is running through an arc, that he is running through a prophecy, that he is running through a story. So it's interesting that he gets literally a bard and a world traveler / best-selling author.
Another form of bard.
Yeah.
If you want.
Just a bard, but a different flavor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. But those are those 2 chapters.
Yep, Matt goes to sleep when he doesn't sleep.
Oh, yeah, that's a great little ending, is that he goes to bed and he is just laying there with, the Foxhead medallion in his fist, ready to fucking
fight the golem
if it slides under his door, and he's twirling a coin over his fingers, trying to think of how to prepare for when the plane goes wrong.
Yeah, real Jack Sparrow moment of him. I know Jack Sparrow's not the first person to have twirled a coin between his fingers.
Sparrow's the only person who's ever twirled a coin. How dare you? But yeah, that moment specifically is evoking a lot of things from Matt, both him as a dexterous thief figure, that's something we often see thieves and pickpockets do, as well as showmen, which Matt also is, sort of this illusionist alongside Tom and Noel. And Matt, of course, is, as we've said multiple times, a god of wealth, who notably is about to kidnap a princess, very Hades and Persephone style. Whee! So, the end. In the next section, we will get the actual escape, which unfortunately will bring our last two major players into the plot, Tuon and Seleucia, her bodyguard / handmaid.
Whomst I hate.
And hopefully at that point we will learn what leverage Matt has over Val and Luca, but I don't remember if we did.
I don't know if I...
Maybe that's just vague on purpose.
Yeah, he's like, it's a me.
It's me. But that'll be fun. So, anything to add?
No, who's your favorite character?
Oh, fuck yeah. Do you have one?
I want to say Noel, just because I think he's so weird and charming every time he's on screen. And, again, like, this group of highly competent men, Noel also always delivers an important piece of news when he's on screen. He's never there for no reason. Sometimes he's there for no reason, but most of the time he's, like, actually giving important info. And I like that about him. He's not a page waster.
Yeah, I agree. I'll say my favorite was Tom, mostly because most of the time he will not be my favorite, but I enjoy him in these very specific moments when he just gets to do his hyper-competent stuff. Like, he's like, alright, to forge this paperwork, I will need to find the correct inks. And I'm like, damn, okay.
You will?
You're really committing to the bit there, bud.
Yeah.
Like, the Strongin officer is going to inspect the ink type, you know? But, you know, maybe they will, and Tom will be prepared.
Yeah, Tom knows. Yeah, Tom is also very charming when he's like, I didn't get to forge my paperwork.
He's like,
I was so close.
I was so ready. And least favorite characters, I guess I'd just say Jolene. She's just so...
She's very unpleasant.
Yeah, she's so entitled.
Yeah.
So rude. Ugh.
Yeah, she's not a pleasant one to be around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Tylan. She's really gross at the beginning.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Well, everyone, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks to Glenn Mackenzie for our theme song. And thanks to our patrons on Patreon and our followers on social media. That's it. Do you have anything?
That's it. No.
Okay, great. Do you have a sign-off?
I do.
Ooh.
If you guys are Spotify users, you'll know that Spotify will make, like, daily mixes or, like, recommended songs for you. And I was listening to one of mine, and one of the recommended songs was the Glee version of Footloose. I was like, what the fuck have I been listening to that you think this is a song I would enjoy?
That was a savage read on you
Yeah,
by
I was
Spotify.
Like, I'm rethink my life choices.
Spotify was like, absolutely not.
I was like, fuck this bitch.
God. Okay, I'm gonna go turn the AC back on.
Now we will make din din.
Goodbye.
Bye.